Sound check. Good morning, everyone. I'll call this meeting of Planning Economic Development Committee for Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023 to order. Madam Clerk, can we do a roll call, please? And push.
Councillor Shaheed, can you hit your button? So sorry, thank you. Councillor Kerr, can you hit your button?
Okay. Thank you. Declarations of interest, committee members? Hearing and seeing none, can I have a motion to adopt the minutes of our meeting from September the 5th, 2023, moved by Councillor Kerr, seconded by Councillor Shaheed. Any comments, questions, or otherwise? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. There are no statutory meetings. We have a presentation to start with. Stacey Gibb, Manager of Agriculture and Rural Economic Development, is going to talk to us about Growing Agri-Food Durham Plan Annual Report. And that's not Stacey.
Yes, it
Is it Stacey?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I've been calling you the wrong name, haven't I?
It's okay.
Sorry.
No problem. Hello, everyone. As mentioned, I'm Stacey Gibb, Manager of Agriculture and Rural Economic Development. This presentation provides an annual report on the Growing Agri-Food Durham Plan and the Local Food Business Retention and Expansion Action Plan. More information can also be found in the corresponding report in today's agenda package. The Ready Set Future Plan, forgot to skip this. There we go. The Ready Set Future Plan, a 5-year economic development and tourism strategy for Durham Region, was released earlier this year. It identifies agri-food as a priority cluster for the region. The Growing Agri-Food Durham Plan was the first supporting plan to be released, which implements the broader Ready Set Future Plan. Growing Agri-Food Durham was endorsed by Council in June of 2022 and is a 5-year action-focused document to guide the activities of the Agriculture and Rural section within the Economic Development and Tourism Division. There are, the Growing Agri-Food Durham Plan identifies 10 goal areas. For today, we will highlight some of the key activities that have been accomplished under each of the goal areas. Under Goal Area 1, which is retain and expand local food businesses, we've been working on the ongoing implementation of the Local Food BRNE Action Plan, which was approved by Council in June of 2019. We've completed a business case to evaluate the feasibility of a local food logistics hub and innovation center. Each year, we have been running a Local Food Week campaign, which celebrates Ontario Local Food Week, which is the first week of June. And in 2022, we brought back the Gates Open event, which showcased 10 farms and welcomed thousands of visitors to Durham Region. Under Goal Area 2, which is to streamline the regulation and approvals process for agri-food businesses, We held a agriculture, economic development, and planning workshop in June of 2022. The focus of this workshop was to create working relationships between economic development, planning, and building staff to effectively work together to support agri-food related businesses. Goal 3, which is to enable and encourage agriculture-related and on-farm diversified uses. Earlier this year, we brought forward a report outlining the best practices for on-farm diversified uses. The report was shared with municipalities across the region. With partners, we have also offered a series of workshops throughout 2022, which were titled So You Think You Want to Farm and So You Think You Want to Diversify. Both of these workshops aim to support startup farms and farms who are looking to diversify. Goal 4, which is to recognize infrastructure as a key component of the agri-food system. We organized a tour with the Oshawa Port for members of DAC and the Clarington Agricultural Advisory Committee last year. As a follow-up to this tour, representatives from the Hamilton-Oshawa Port Authority also attended a DAC meeting in fall of 2022 to share more information about development and plans to expand the grain terminal at the Oshawa Port. Goal Area 5, which is to support businesses to increase agri-food processing capacity. We are conducting several interviews throughout the Township of Scugog as part of the Scugog Business Program, with a focus on agriculture and agri-food businesses who have a processing component to their business. We will continue these interviews over the coming months. Under Goal Area 6, which is to identify opportunities and solutions for the workforce and labor shortages in the agri-food sector, we've been busy in this goal area. Throughout 2022, we launched a series of agriculture workforce development videos to highlight career opportunities in the agri-food industry. These videos were featured in high schools across Durham region. We've also been working with Durham Farm Connections, and earlier this year held a Precision Agriculture Field Day at a farm here in Durham region. This event saw students come to a farm to experience on-the-ground insights around the application of precision agriculture technology and learn about the diversity of careers available in the agri-food industry. Under Goal 7, which is to provide resources for aging and young farmers, we worked with BDO Canada to host a virtual succession planning workshop in 2022. The content was tailored specifically to agricultural businesses and farm families to help them support getting the next generation into the business. Under Goal 8, we partner with agricultural organizations to deliver and expand agricultural literacy in the region. We're proud to be ongoing partners with Durham Farm Connections. This organization is known province-wide for delivering agriculture education programming for both farm and non-farm populations across the region. Over the last year, we've supported their annual primary program, which takes place in the spring at the Brooklyn Viapond Arena. We have assisted with funding applications to the Rural Economic Development Program, and we also are working with the Durham Agricultural Advisory Committee to develop and deliver Agriculture 101 training. So far, this training has been delivered to Regional Council, and plans are underway to deliver similar training at the municipalities across the region. Under Goal 9, which is to enable a culture of innovation in agriculture and food, in early 2022, we partnered with York Region and the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs to deliver a series of Vertical Farming 101 workshops. These workshops saw close to 400 registrants participating to learn more about vertical farming and how they can get into the industry. We also worked with Durham Farm Connections recently to launch a series of precision agriculture videos, which have also been featured in high schools across the region. Goal 10, our final goal, which is around enhancing urban agriculture. We're continuing to partner with Durham College and the Barrett Center for Innovation in Sustainable Urban Agriculture to enhance urban agriculture in the region. In fact, we attended an event yesterday to celebrate the groundbreaking and the grand opening of their farm in Ajax. We recently partnered on an application to the Local Food Infrastructure Fund with Durham College and are members of the Barrett Center Advisory Panel. Next steps. So we are going to be delivering this similar presentation to our partners across the region who we work with to implement this plan. That includes the Agricultural Advisory Committee, the Durham Region Federation of Agriculture, Durham Farm Fresh, and Durham Farm Connections. We did make a commitment to follow up with those groups since they're integral in the implementation of this plan and were engaged throughout the development of the plan. Over the next year, we also have a number of activities already underway or we are planning to undertake. We've currently launched the Gather at the Farm campaign, which will be running throughout the month of October, encouraging people to visit farms across the region. We have a number of activities planned related to agri-tech programming, and we are working with the townships of Scugog, Uxbridge, and Brock to look at opportunities for on-farm diversification in a collaborative, common type of approach. Finally, we'd just like to share that this is Ontario Agriculture Week this week. So this is an annual celebration of the commodities grown in Ontario and those who are pivotal to our local food production. So we encourage you to support local farms through visiting Durham Farm Fresh, looking for local food options at restaurants, and taking a moment to reflect on truly how lucky we are to have some of the most productive farmers in Ontario living right here in this region. We'll be celebrating Ontario Agriculture Week through our local food campaigns in Gather at the Farm and various Invest Durham and Durham Tourism social channels. That concludes my presentation, so I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Not online. Thank you, Stacy.
Okay.
Next, we have Jeff Carpenter, the Chair of Durham Environment and Climate Advisory Committee, and Jay Cuthbertson is the first Vice President of the committee, but he's online, right?
Both of us should be, Chair.
Okay, we've got you there. Good to hear you, Jay. And welcome, Jeff. Good to see you.
Thank you. Jay's going to begin the presentation.
Okay, go ahead when you're ready, Jay.
Thanks, folks. Thank you to the committee for hearing us today. We'll get straight to the point. Jeff and I are here to speak to you about an alternate approach to how we can maintain our roadside and public spaces. We want to propose a win-win solution to maintaining our open spaces in a way that can lower costs, increase biodiversity and beauty in the area, all the while sequestering carbon and improving surface water management. So this is just a starting point. We want to work together and talk about pilot projects and different approaches and how we can broadly apply this. So why? What's the why here? Everyone's heard about the bees. We know that globally pollinators are in an unprecedented crisis position. We see that the intensity of weather events is increasing, and we need to take every step we possibly can to mitigate these climate challenges and pollinator deficits. So building these habitats will help with that. And we're looking around right now. Think about how many times you actually have cleaned bugs off your windshield this summer. I know I barely used any washer fluid. We know that the pollinators are in rough shape, and even a few weeks ago, looking at from a climate perspective, it's the change we're dealing with is unrelenting. Greece got 3 years of rain in 2 days. New lakes exist where there were none before, and these sorts of disasters are hitting everywhere. So we need to look at ways to create more resilient habitat and infrastructure in our neighborhood. And with that, I'll hand it over to Jeff to talk about municipal considerations. Thank you.
Good morning. Just to reiterate and reinforce what Jay has said, one of the challenges that we face is an understanding of how important the ecosystem is to what we do in our everyday lives. We talk about agribusiness in the last presentation, and one of the things that happens with respect to that is it's good, it produces food, but typically agricultural processes are not great for pollinators because they have a very narrow window where the flower of the plant is available, the pollen is available. So you need these natural types of habitats that are there for you. Understanding that the municipality has its own needs, we accept the fact that you have things that you have to consider foremost before the bees and the bugs. One of those is, of course, the safety of the public. You have to keep these roadways, these public areas safe. You have to think about fire. You have to think about visibility. You have to think about emergency services. the integrity of the road edge, the infrastructure integrity, and then you also think about the new vision, if you will, the vision of climate, where we start to look at our own green footprint, whether they're individuals or whether we're a municipality that's doing that. We have to think about invasive species management because this is a huge issue that's emerging. We see it every day if we drive the roads of Durham in the form of Phragmites, which is the most visible and obvious form of invasive species. It in itself doesn't belong here, which means that those other natural processes are interrupted as well. And then underlying that, you have to meet your own priorities with respect to budget, staffing, equipment availability, et cetera. So these are all things that we respect and understand when it is to asking you to understand a different way to proceed with this. So from nature's perspective, we have to consider that the birds and the bugs and the bees and the mammals have needs as well. And as I said with the agricultural example, the way that we are managing our development with respect to housing, industry, and agriculture are not necessarily the best things for nature. So we have a habitat that exists along every roadway and every public space in Durham Region. And what we're asking you is to think a bit about what do those insects need in order to prosper. So one of the things that they need is they need a constant pollen source. And nature takes care of that because they have plants that persist throughout the year and they flower at different times, produce pollen at different times. So they're not just the bees, but all the other pollinators can benefit from that as well. During the breeding season, which is roughly mid-May to mid-July, there's a lot of ground nesting birds that will use those rights of way because they're what are called ecotones, which is a habitat between a habitat. So if you have a roadway or an industrial area as a habitat, then you have a forest as a habitat, the transition zone is called an ecotone. Those are critical because those are the area where most of the flowering plants will grow. So we have to think a bit about that. We have to think about the mammals. There's lots of little rodents like voles and mice and stuff that live along the roadways. And if you drive and you see this big hawk in the winter, that's usually a red-tailed hawk, it's feeding on those. So again, that's part of the food chain. The mice need the cover, they need the seeds from the plants in the winter, and then of course the birds of prey, which is sort of the top predator, the apex predator, need those mice in order to survive, whether it's during the winter to feed themselves or summer to feed their young. We have to consider the fact that these plants that are standing are going to help sequester carbon, which of course is part of the whole climate issue that we're dealing here. And as I mentioned before, if you have a healthy plant there, then you don't have the invasive species as much. So like in your lawn, if your lawn is properly maintained, you have a nice mix of the grasses that you might like for aesthetic reasons with the native flowering plants. If that is strong, then you don't get the other invasive plants in your lawn or your garden, wherever it happens to be. So these are kind of the things from the natural history side of this that we would ask you to think a bit about. Benefits to you, the region, first of all, just from a maintenance perspective, you use less fuel, you use less staff time, machinery wear and tear is reduced because you're not cutting as much. From the public's perspective, and I know some of the public doesn't understand this, but wildflowers are not only pretty, but they're useful. But some people look at them and they think everything that's not a rose is a weed. That's not the case. A rose is sort of a useless plant from a natural history perspective, but pretty. So we like those in February a lot. Carbon reduction, I've mentioned there. Also, there's a little graphic on the side here that's a bit hard to see, but it just gives you an idea of, like say a lawn grass, for example. The root system on a typical lawn grass is probably only 1 or 2 inches deep. Whereas many of these native plants that are there, the perennials, they'll have roots that go down as much as 14 feet. Now that's not all of them, but all of them will go beyond the 2-inch thing. So what that does is it binds the soil, reduces erosion, reduces the dust potential for it, stabilizes the soil, helps with carbon sequestration. So there's a lot of things that are happening when you have a native plant there as opposed to something that we think is prettier with respect to that. Water management is becoming a huge issue. Jay mentioned the floods in Greece, for example, and they were in I think, Libya as well. They had massive floods there. So what the region does when it does a development, of course, it has these stormwater management plans. And part of that is to try to manage the water, to release it into the environment at a regulated rate. Nature does that for you because it will take the water up, it will use it, it'll transpire it out through the thing as the plant photosynthesizes, and that way it will do the job for you, particularly along the roadsides. So it helps with the whole flood mitigation perspective that you might have in mind. I mentioned soil stability already. So what we're asking you is to consider to change the way you think a bit about roadside and public space maintenance. And I know that in the past, some of the municipalities in the region have thought about a pollinator garden, which is a small little patch of land that is nice, it's pretty, it's got wildflowers in it, and the pollinators benefit. If you can expand that to something much bigger, that will be better for nature. 5, 6 plants is not nearly as good as 7,000, 10,000, whatever number of plants that you would have there. We also want to ask you to consider how much you mow and when you mow. And then part of this pilot project, Durham Environmental Climate Advisory Committee would obviously be willing to help in the planning of this project and give you some expertise that we have within our ranks to give you an understanding of what are the types of plants that you should be encouraging, what do you have to do. And for the most part, you don't have to do much because nature's going to develop this garden for you if you give her a chance. We would ask that as part of this is that we would bring some players into this. In addition to DAC, we would look perhaps to UOIT to help us with some guidance for this. There's lots of other agencies around. There's lots of other municipalities that have done projects similar to this, and they have expertise. They know what works. They know what doesn't work. So from our perspective, here are the specific details that we would ask you to consider. So the 2 projects. One is a pilot project to develop a pollinator garden. And that, for example, could be right here. You have pretty expansive lands here that are mowed. Okay, they're nice, but they could be way better from an environmental perspective. And being in the city doesn't mean you won't have pollinators. You don't have to be in the country for this thing to work. So if even on the grounds here, you could consider a different way to manage them. You have this massive area in front here that used to be a pond, is now kind of an empty hole. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it's not doing much. Maybe there, I don't know, maybe there could be somewhere where you could consider a pollinator garden by putting some dirt in and using that space that you already have. So these are the kind of things that we would look at with the pollinator part of it. From the roadside cutting part, we would ask that you consider when you do your cutting. So for example, I mentioned up here that we have key dates to reduce the environmental impact. So from the nesting species perspective, that is roughly mid-May to mid-July. So if you could avoid cutting unless necessary for safety, health reasons, whatever, it would be ideal if you could do that. In the fall, you have all these other creatures that are using the same lands. So somewhere around mid-August through till about mid-October is when the migrant birds are coming through, and they're going to rely on some of these plants in order to beef up, if you will, for the travel south. And then through the winter, the insects need these plants to live in and under. So most of the insects that survive the winter here actually live in the leaf litter or live in the stems of these plants. So if they cannot be cut over the course of the winter, like don't do a late fall mowing, let them stand, and then in the spring, do the mowing, cut them down then. You will give all these insects, millions of them, a chance to survive. So that's kind of the gist of a project, a vision that we have at DCAC that we wanted to share with you, and we hope you support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Questions? Councillor Shaid?
Yes, Chair Chapman, thank you. May I?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Jeff. Really appreciate you coming in. I just have a comment, and it's following up with a question, and I'll be really quick. I know that the committee works really hard, bringing a lot of issues in light in order to save our environment, and I appreciate this. So in order to recap, you are recommending 2 that really resonated with me was a pollinator garden or an area, and the other one was to not cut as much as possible, especially in those key timings from mid-May to mid-July roughly, and then in the fall time. I know within the town of Whitby, we have 2 initiatives. That is the bee pollinator garden on our rooftops, and the other one is the Peel Park initiative, where we have a big patch that we've left wild, which I have received some concerns over. So in my question is regarding the fact that I know you had pointed an area out here, but is there any specific area that people within our group of the committee has suggested?
No, with all due respect, we have not. We wanted to get the idea forward first and to get a flavor for whether the region was interested. We would then be quite willing to start looking at some maps and considering some other specific areas other than the headquarters area here. You mentioned a really good point, and that is the public perception of this, because some of the public, you say pollinator, they go, yes. And some people say, you leave the thing unmowed, they go weeds. You know, so it is a challenge, and it's an outreach part that we would want to bring into play somewhere. Once we get this project designed, if you decide to go forward with it, we want to do an outreach component to it as well. We have to let the public understand that these little bugs aren't just annoying creatures. If we don't have these bugs, we don't have food. I don't care how many other projects you have in mind to try to make agriculture successful here. If you don't have bugs, none of them is going to work. So that's another component I didn't bring in, but thank you for
Jay-
triggering that
you.
from me.
Sorry, Jay, did you have something to add to that? I see your mic's on there.
I was just, I'll follow up after Jeff. That's all good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Furthermore, Chair Chapman, I'm going to try to really cinch it in. I know that our Town of Whitby's Bee Garden on the rooftop, have you had a presentation from them ever?
No,
Okay.
we have not. I think that would be a good idea.
Okay.
But one thing that I just want to caution is don't always just think about bees, because the honeybee, for example, is a useful insect, but it is one of thousands, and it's the other ones that don't live in a hive that people identify with this little niche. They go, there's a honeybee, it's a good creature. Honeybee isn't even native to North America. All these other pollinators that do the vast majority of the pollination, those are the ones that are relevant. But I take your point, and I know that Anissa, who's our regional rep, is on the line or on the call here today. So if she could make a note that I think getting a presentation from Whitby on the rooftop beekeeper thing is a great idea, because that could be expanded easily into something like what we're talking about here. Just change the focus to insects as opposed to bees.
At Town of Whitby, we are pretty big on bees. We just opened up a bee park, which
Yeah.
is called the Whitby Park.
Yeah.
So you can imagine, and I appreciate the advocacy that the whole group brings. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's why they're called whip bee.
Whitby, that's right. Clever. How long did you wait
It's
for that?
Any other questions?
Very quickly, if I may, before we go to the next one, I just wanted to build for a second. Ajax is already designated a bee city. I know we don't want to get a target focus on bees. Jeff is absolutely right. The role of pollinator is largely filled by natives, and honeybees are great. We love them, but it's a broader scope than that. And I know that Ajax has a large meadow. Pollinator meadow installed, which is a great model that we could leverage here, and a number of pollinator gardens. So there's lots of collaboration opportunities and existing expertise that we can leverage to make this a great success. That's all I have for this comment. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Neal, you need to put a request in so that we can light up your speaker. There you go. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mr. Chair. So having said all this, and our Columbus Part 2 plan comes to the region, is this going to be incorporated in the regional, like this framework will be incorporated into the regional plan when the Columbus Part 2 comes to the region?
So this is a request from the Environmental Committee. There's a motion, a resolution that is passed that will be sent to staff. And then if it passes through all that and comes back with a plan, then it may well be incorporated into all the other Part 2 plans that come throughout the region. But at this stage, they're here to request and to explain to us why they think it's important that we at least start off with the staff investigating this.
Okay, but like I guess I'm saying, could the Columbus Part 2 plan be part of that study and pilot?
Well, it's not a study and pilot at this stage. It's staff coming back to see what can be done, and then it'll move on from there. So the answer to that question would be no.
Okay. Okay, I'm just wondering, I guess it's a higher level. Well, I guess the question would be to the commissioner. What exactly does the region look at when it comes to the environmental impact of something like the Part 2 plan?
Commissioner?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. So whenever we review a secondary plan, a Part 2, we are reviewing it in the context of conformity with regional policies as they exist in the brand-new Durham Regional Official Plan, and any other related provincial policies and so on. And I think, as Chair Chapman has said, as we get into this review, working in conjunction with not just planning, but our colleagues and works, we'll probably learn more about potential opportunities. But I do agree with Chair Chapman and his assessment that, you know, let us do this work here, and if it turns out there's things that can be put into future policy documents and so on, that of course would be a benefit of the program. But we'll take it one step at a time.
Okay, and through you, Mr. Chair, what would be the time frame for all this?
Was that to me, Councillor? Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, my preliminary thinking would be, you know, sometime perhaps before the summer recess, but I say that without really consulting with our DCAC liaison, et cetera. So perhaps we can report back on that timing off the top. It would take a while to make some headway and consult with the committee members and the members, et cetera.
And the resolution, if passed, is for the staff to investigate these possibilities and to report back to the Environmental and Climate Advisory Committee so that they can have the discussion back and forth. What staff may see as good, the Environmental Committee might see as bad, and vice versa.
Yeah, well, I realize there's some discussion. It sounds like it's an emergency out there with with our climate, when we made the resolution on climate control. So, I mean, it doesn't sound like we have much time to do any more. I guess we figure out there is a climate challenge. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? Chair Henry? You have to put in your request to speak, Mr. Chair. Go ahead.
I thought I did, so I apologize. Jeff, thank you and the group that you work with for the great work they do. 4 questions. The first question is, I know that you're passionate about and you go out and you count birds. Have you noticed in the work that you do a difference in your counts recently related to the possibility shift in climate?
Yes, specifically certain groups of birds are the challenge, and the one that is probably in the most jeopardy is the ones that are called insectivores, and these are the ones that specifically eat insects for the majority of their life. Lots of birds will eat insects during the course of the summer to feed the babies because of high protein, but some other species only eat insects. And those are the ones that are in decline. And across North America, most of the what they call aerial insectivores are the ones that actually chase the bugs through the air as opposed to finding them on the ground. Their populations across North America are down 70 to 80% in most of the species. So something very simple like a swallow. I think everybody knows what a swallow is. Think about how many swallows you used to see versus how many you see nowadays. So when I was younger, I could, in the fall, this is a great time of year, I would go out and on the wires, I would just see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of swallows sitting on the wires. I see almost none now. So that to me is a very real indicator that anybody could understand. I'd go a bit deeper into studies that I do, but yes, very simply, the aerial insectivores, which would benefit from a project like this, are greatly impacted because of the practice we have with roads, with building, with the agricultural styles that we have in place, with the use of pesticides. Everything is working against nature in what we do. And I know we do it for a good reason, but the point is that we need to figure a way to balance that with what we could do today.
So does that mean that you're seeing a decrease in the number of bats that are out there as well?
Exactly, same thing. Same issue with the bats, because the bats are aerial insectivores as well. They only feed on the wings, so they need these bigger bugs out there. So if you don't have that kind of habitat in proximity to where you are, and they also face a different threat, a white lip disease, which is a devastating disease that is also taking their populations out. So you blend that disease with the lack of food, and then the bats go down. So we need, again, it's always hard to understand all the intricacies of nature, but we sort of see a bird and we see a bug and go, okay, a bird eats a bug, big deal. But that bug does something as well, and the plant that it's feeding on does something, and all this stuff is interconnected and complex. So sorry, I get carried away with my answers, but
No, I appreciate that. You mentioned Phragmites.
Yeah.
When you see it everywhere now. I don't think anybody's come up with a use for Phragmites at all. But as Phragmites takes over the roadways and the waterways, does it move insects out?
it displaces because most of the insects we have are plant specific. So not every one, but I mean, some bugs will go on a whole variety of different types of plants. Some go only on one type of plant. So as you reduce the diversity of the habitat, that means that the diversity of everything around it declines, whether it's the birds or the turtles that can't get through that habitat anymore because it's too dense, or it's the frogs that are trying to live under it, but it's taken up too much water, so there's no water available. So Phragmites definitely has a negative impact in the sense that it displaces, if you will, what's out there. One of the simplest ways to reduce the impact of that is to cut it. I know that I'm talking about not cutting, but on the side of Phragmites, if you can cut that down several times a year, it really weakens it. And then once we're working, there's a project that's ongoing now in Durham around Cranberry where they're trying to introduce this little bug that actually is from Europe where this plant belongs. And they're trying to see if this thing will actually start to control it here. But that's years or even decades down the road.
So when you mentioned pollinators, are there a list of specific plants that we could publish so residents could put them in their gardens? Because I've been involved in the past with monarch butterfly plantings. In fact, there's a great monarch butterfly park in Oshawa where it has been successful. So is there a way that we can, ideally, if every home put 10 plants in, we'd be down the road, we'd be doing really good things. But would it be possible to create a specific list of plantings for people so that they understand?
Absolutely. There are the native plants is what you're looking at. So a lot of the things, and I mentioned the rose, for example, not that I don't like roses, but roses for the most part are hybrids. Many of them don't produce pollen at all, or hardly any pollen. So they're kind of pretty but useless from a natural history perspective. But there's lots of knowledge out there with respect to native plants that people can buy, because there's lots of native nurseries right in Durham region now, or several, not lots, but several, where people could go to buy these plants. So we could easily put together a list, and maybe that's something that, again, through Anissa, that maybe we could discuss at DCAC to generate this list for the public of things that they might consider if they want to make their garden more pollinator friendly.
Okay, and I do know that in creating gardens, that the public will come out and help you plant plants and build gardens. I know that the butterfly garden in Oshawa was incredibly successful. And Chair, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we just had last weekend, I guess it was, the tree giveaway in Oshawa that our environmental committee did. So maybe we need to start to get some sponsors, maybe start giving away certain plants. Maybe that'll help. The big thing that was mentioned, I think, is very important is the outreach, because we have a number of naturalized areas in Oshawa, and the number of calls you get about cleaning it up because the bugs are, especially in that summertime, right? So I think that's also a very important with the outreach. I'm sure the staff will, when they put all this stuff together to come back to you with your discussions, that they'll consider some of that. So we'll have that resolution that's on the agenda for later on in the agenda. Thanks very much, Jeff. Thank you very much, Jay, for giving us your time this morning. And thanks for the passion that you demonstrate every day in this area. Thank you very much. Yes.
Request? Why don't we bring this forward right now? So I'll give you a motion to bring the item forward.
So you need to waive the rules to change the agenda.
Yes.
Seconded by Councillor Shahid. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. The resolution is now forward in the agenda. So I need a mover. Councillor
move it,
Shahid, would you
Chair.
like to move that as the representative on the Environmental Committee? And Chair Hinner, you're going to second that?
Absolutely.
Any comments or questions? The resolution is at page 46. That staff be requested to investigate the possibility of perennial pollinator plots pilot on regional lands and report back to the Durham Environmental and Climate Advisory Committee. Questions, comments? All in favor? Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Jeff. Thank you, Jay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Everyone.
Okay, next up, we have Diana Robinson, the Director of Marketing and Communications, Lake Ridge Health Foundation, who's going to talk to us about Pedal for Patients charity ride. Morning, Diana.
Good morning. Let's see if I can get the clicker working here. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here on behalf of Lake Ridge Health Foundation to talk about Pedal for Patients. And so earlier this year in May, we had a unique partnership between the region of Durham and our foundation to create a charitable cycle event. And I'm here to give you a very quick snapshot on the results of that. And it was a very successful partnership. We came together to create this event to create awareness about active communities, to celebrate Bike Month, and to also raise support and awareness for our hospital, and in particular our cancer center. And so in Oshawa, we have the R.S. McLaughlin Durham Regional Cancer Center. It's a regional program that serves about 18,000 patients a year. And so it was fairly successful. We're very excited with what came together. And I won't go ahead and read this slide word for word, but let you know that we had 96 riders come out. We raised $97,000 for local cancer care. 200,000 impressions through social, included some ad buying that our foundation did to spread the word. And what was great is 100% of those participants said they'd ride again. And so what we really were able to do was highlight the landscape of Durham region as an opportunity for cyclists. We got to raise awareness for local health care and bring quite a few people out to do an event for the very first time. And so community participation was obviously very high. We welcome participation from area municipalities, cycling groups, and community members. And it really gave an opportunity for people to share their own story. And so for a quick moment, I'll share one of those. And so Stephanie Lane approached us to let us know that she was riding in this event. Stephanie's actually an employee of the Cancer Center, and her late husband, James, was an employee of the region. And so James was diagnosed with stage 4 colorectal cancer when he was just 34. And so 2 years later, this event popped up, and Stephanie thought, what a great opportunity to bring my family together. And so she reached out to region employees and friends and family, and she joined the ride with them in honor of James. And his father flew out from Cape Breton to join. And so this is just one story of many that came together with these events. So these aren't just events that raise money, they're events that kind of bring people together. So what we did was we raised $97,000 for cancer. Now our foundation's running our cancer campaign, a $20 million campaign to advance cancer care in this region. And so this $97,000 that came in earlier this year helped us to surpass 90% of that $20 million goal. And funds that come through this cancer campaign are allowing us to bring in a new state-of-the-art robotic surgery tool, the first of its kind in this region between Toronto and Kingston. We're bringing in lab equipment that helps us diagnose and stage cancer within minutes. And we have a PET CT scanner coming in, hopefully beginning of next year. We send 30 patients a week to Toronto to have these scans in the middle of their cancer treatment. And through this campaign, we'll bring one right to Oshawa, so people don't have to leave this region for cancer care. And so what happens next? Well, we're very excited because in 2024, on June 2nd, the 4 foundations of Lake Ridge Health will come together to create a new ride. And so what this means is more support, more riders, more resources. So what we're doing, and we'll see the foundations there, is we have the opportunity to have all the results of these rides come together. So we saw 97 or so riders come through for ours. Ajax Bike for Bones saw 170 riders. They raised $115,000 last year. So when we start to bring these rides and these events together, we're going to see quite a lot more participation and even more funds raised for the hospital sites throughout the region. And so it's been, again, my pleasure to be here today to share those results with you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Diana. First up is Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Dana, for your presentation. Just one question for me. I'm always a keener for learning. I've never heard of that Da Vinci robot, and you say it's so transformative. What actually does it do? I've never heard of this functioning machinery or technology before?
I'm so happy to answer that question. So the Da Vinci robot, if you think about minimally invasive surgery, you still have surgeons using long sticks. And so a surgeon once told me it almost feels like he is shrunken and transformed inside the body. And so what allows is 360-degree movements from a console. And so that console's still in the room. It's about an arm's length away from the patient, but it allows, instead of having a physician or a surgeon and the assistant and a nurse there all holding these long sticks, the Da Vinci robot itself has those arms and can move them independently or together and can reach different parts of the body a human can't reach. It can do things in small, intricate ways that our hands can't. And so there is less damage to the body, which surgery does do. There's less blood loss, less chance of infection, and the outcomes are much, much better.
Wow.
Our patients are going home. I'll give you a great example. We had a patient who underwent lung surgery. He was home the next day. That shouldn't happen, but it does because we have technology like that here. And so patients were being sent into the city for robotic surgery when robotic surgery is actually the standard of care for many different cancer surgeries. So now we're doing that here in Oshawa. Our surgeons have been so excited. They've ramped up, and hundreds of patients will benefit from that just this year.
Wow, that's incredible. When you say that shouldn't happen, actually, we should flip that around and say it should. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Collier?
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Ms. Robinson. Are you here with regard to Lakeridge Health Foundation or Lakeridge Health as a whole across the region?
So I'm just here from Lakeridge Health Foundation to talk about the event we did in May, but I'm speaking on behalf of all our foundations together to let everybody know about that event that's coming up. In fact, I'm meeting with that group tomorrow to start planning.
I'm asking that question because, and Mr. Gill knows exactly why, Lakeridge Health Foundation is a fundraising arm for Oshawa
And Whitby, yes.
and Whitby, but isn't broad across the region where, I don't even know what it's called in Ajax now. It's not Rouge Valley anymore, but that's a separate foundation. And then there's a third foundation, I believe, for Bowmanville and Port Perry, is there?
There are 4 foundations for the 5 sites of Lakeridge Health.
Okay. So where I'm going with this is an ask for only one foundation or a presentation from one foundation. I just want the members here to be aware. And I'll try and phrase this as a question. I'm very involved with Bike for Bones. We started that 2 years ago. You started this event last year. So we already had an established event looking to do certain things in the region. In our case, orthopedic surgery, which Durham Ajax has become sort of the orthopedic hub with a number of the doctors, Dr. Galley, Dr. Lobo. You're aware of this, right? Okay. Gone out, formed the Durham Bone Network. And we also approached Cynthia Davis of Lakeridge Health with a business proposal for a orthopedic robot to sort of help facilitate, move this forward. And we're even talking about changing the event to Bike for Bots, yet was told there's no appetite at Lakeridge Health Corporation for this. So I'm just trying to understand, there is an appetite for a robot for this in Oshawa for Lakeridge Health Foundation.
I could probably answer that in a few different ways.
Okay.
So again, I'm just here to talk about the results of the event and let you know about the upcoming event. When we raise money for items through the hospital, there's a rigorous process that involves the capital planning department and a few different business cases. And so we've been working with the hospital for 3 years to bring that robot. And in fact, the robot's already in place at the hospital and being used. I can't speak to what the other foundations are doing with the hospital, and certainly not what Cindy Davis and her senior team are doing or deciding, and what those senior physicians and leaders are doing. But I can say that the future bike ride that we do, what we're actually able to do is that each foundation will be able to bring forward a priority. And when riders sign up, they can choose which foundation they're riding for and help raise money for whatever that specific priority is for that foundation. So if Ajax is able to bring in a robot or something orthopedics, they'll still be raising money for that through this event.
Okay. I guess where the problem breaks down is people don't realize they're separate. They hear Lakeridge Health and they think it's Lakeridge Health Corporation. And this was the issue we had when you're here and Durham Economic Development sponsors your event last year, but didn't sponsor our event till I came to Simon and said, hey, what's going on? when we're allocating Durham monies, I think they have to be Durham-wide. And so I just wanted to be very transparent that you're here with regards to Lake Ridge Health. Not
Absolutely.
Lake Ridge Health Foundation, not Lake Ridge Health Corporation.
Yes,
which is
absolutely.
broad.
And that's another reason why we were very excited to bring this event together as multiple foundations, because that allows us to have more of a regional focus. So when we do approach the committee and the representatives here, we can discuss how support from the region is, again, like you said, more regional in support.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I guess one thing that we try to spread our finances around as we can, but also we can't get caught up, you say orthopedics in Ajax, and that's great. It's the Cancer Center in Oshawa. It's not Lake Ridge, Oshawa. It's the Cancer Center, and like it would be for orthopedics of however the raising is. What I get from this is that it's the synergy of a bigger group coming together as opposed to planning separate events. We do one massive event, which may or may not draw more people, but your explanation of people then can choose, I'm riding in Ajax, so I want the money to go there. I'm riding in Bowmanville, so I want the money to go there, which I think is a great idea. Yeah. Councillor Shaid?
Thank you. Through you, Chair Chapman. I really appreciate the initiative and the work that you've done in the past, and I'm excited for the next year. So the goal was 97,000. This year, you achieved it.
The goal was 100,000, so
Okay.
97 was fairly close. We almost got our target.
And you have similar goals for next year?
Very early in the planning. So
Okay.
tomorrow will be actually our second meeting as a group. So we'll be coming together to decide what those numbers are, hoping to launch at the latest in January to the community as the event will run in June.
That's amazing. I wish you the best, and I'm looking forward to great outcomes. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much.
You look like you were going to push a button there, John. Go ahead, Chair.
When questions are finished, Chair, I'd like to bring a motion to alter the agenda to bring this item forward.
We have two of them right there. It's actually the next one, Pedal for Patients, is the very next thing on our agenda. So
Okay, at the appropriate time.
that's already there. We don't need a motion to change the agenda.
Well,
But once Diana finishes, we have, the next thing is our report for Pedal for Patients Charity Ride.
that's what I want to bring forward, because the staff recommendation is to receive for information. I want to alter the recommendation.
Okay, so you don't need to bring it forward, you need to talk about that. Okay. No other questions? I don't see anything online. Thank you, Diana. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
So we move on in the agenda. We're on item 7 now, which is Report 2023 P24, Pedal for Patients Charity Ride. My trusty lady here is looking after me.
I rely upon the clerk.
You
during
realize
council
how sometimes you get carried away and you don't look at the names on the screen here.
Chair, I just simply want to change it from receive for information to endorse the ride.
That can be done, right?
Do you still want it to stay at community level?
I'd like the recommendation to go to council and endorse the ride. To explain why, is that simply this is a ride that goes out through the region.
Sure.
It is a regional event. They utilize it. They start here at regional headquarters. We have staff involved already. And to add to the weight of what they're trying to do, endorsing this from a regional perspective would be a good idea. And after hearing this delegation today, noting that it will support other parts of the region by choice, I think it's a great opportunity for the region to be involved.
All good reasons. I just want to make sure that we get the technicalities of it down. This is, so that's fine?
Yep.
Motion to endorse and forward it to council.
Yes.
Can I have a seconder on that? Councillor Kerr, and the speakers are Mayor Collier?
Thank you, Chair. Just a question, by endorsing this, are we making any financial commitments today?
No.
There wasn't any in the ask, okay.
No.
What about, as I alluded to, other events in the region that are also, I guess, regional events, as they also benefit the other hospitals in the region? So when they come forward, will this also be something that the region is going to be involved in and put resources towards?
Mr. Gill?
Yeah, through the chair. I can speak to Durham Tourism, but perhaps from a staff support perspective, I might defer to my colleague, Mr. Pereira. Clarification on which type of support you're asking about?
Well, as I alluded to, there's already the Bike for Bones, which was a hospital-run cycling event in Durham. I think it's no surprise Ajax, especially given our past mayor, was very involved in cycling, and it's something that we chose to do as a fundraising source for the hospital, and it's been very successful. As the presentation did list the numbers, they're quite good, and it's growing like crazy. Cycling in Durham is very big. I absolutely am supportive of this, but I find it problematic if the region, as we discussed last year, decides to fund one event over another when hospital care in Durham is a combined thing, a regional thing. So I'm just wondering, fine with supporting one event, but there are other events that were around longer than this that have not been supported. So what is the plan for that?
Mr. Pereira?
Through the chair, thanks for that question. With regards to the support for the, Pedal for Patients, it was in the 3-year in the making with regards to stemming from the regional cycling plan that was approved by council in 2021, and it was one of the actions to elevate cycling within Durham itself. Initially, when we looked out for charity organizations, Princess Margaret were actually quite high on the list and wanted to do that. But then we were advised to look a bit more locally, and Lakeridge Health Foundation came to the table, and we had those discussions with them. Knowing that it was the end of the pandemic and everything else, we deferred that event until this year. It did take a year and a half of planning, given it was the first event. There's no denying that there is a Bike for Bones event as well. And through the success of this particular event as well, we recognize that coming together with regards to it being a regional component, having those other charities. And I think that's why Lakeridge Foundation is meeting with the other charities to bring forward a coordinated charity. Because I think at the end of the day, it's more about the, the funds that we're raising for as opposed to individual organizations. But this particular event really stemmed from the celebration of Bike Month and also the regional cycling plan as one of those particular directions from that plan.
So this is sort of a one-off in the active transportation, given the bike plan, and the foundations decided that they wanted to join together. So I think you're talking more general about other things that foundations are doing, and none of that is before us, or if it does come before us, I know the appropriate department will look at it and come to the appropriate committee if they're looking for funding or whatever kind of support.
Well, thank you, Chair. And I did bring this forward last year, which is why I'm wondering why this isn't part of the plan. I don't believe that the foundations have come together in a joint ask. So that's why I'm asking. It looks this way, if this is endorsed today, that we're going to go this one direction. But like you said, it's been a year and a half in the works. The other one has been around for 2 years, right? And this should be using regional money from all municipalities, be doing region broadly. And I'm fully in support of Lakeridge Health Foundation, but they are only for the Oshawa Center. So I think we should be looking more broadly. I don't want to support this today if it's going to exclude anything else. If you're telling me, no, that's not the case, we are going to be working with both organizations, I'm fine.
Yeah, I think that's where we're at. This is just a one-up, and at this stage, we heard from the delegate that they're meeting tomorrow for their second meeting to try and bring them all together. And this again is, as far as I know, there's no finances that we're committing at this stage. Is that right?
Through the chair, no, there are no finances at this point. We did provide some administration and staff help for this year. And then we also offset some of the costs with regards to providing regional facilities as well.
So I guess once this committee that they're organizing of all the foundations meet and sort out their plans, they'll come back to staff, and they'll have to have a look at it, whether they can support it with what Mr. Pereira said, just simply some resources and facilities, as opposed to, hey, we need some money that we know where that goes. It doesn't come from this committee.
No, we both know where that comes from.
Is that-
So are all foundations involved in your meeting tomorrow?
Through the chair, yes, they are.
Okay.
That.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Counselor Neal. Oh, Counselor Neal, you have to do a request. There we go. Go ahead. Counselor Neal?
My question was answered. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any others? Then on the motion, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Next is Economic Development Report 2023 EDT 13, Growing Agri-Food Durham Plan Annual Report. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Kerr, seconded by Councillor Shaid. Any comments, questions, or otherwise? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We are down to, there's no confidential matters. Any other business? Seeing none, motion to adjourn, please. Mayor Collier, seconded by Councillor Kerr. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much, folks. Our next meeting is November the 7th.